Hi, I'm Dr. Deb Butler, and you are listening to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is episode number 473. Hi, all my dear friends all over the world. You can see me and you can hear me. You can see me by going to YouTube, or you can hear me by listening on your favorite podcast form. And today I've got some really interesting things to talk about, which is what I say all the time because I usually do. But what I want to tell you about first is I'm offering an interesting free class. And I think the reason it's interesting is because I am taking a different approach. I am taking a mindful way of helping you make over the way that you eat in menopause, because I teach mindfulness and I teach things about eating. And maybe those of you who don't know me very well don't know that I really don't tell you what to eat, even though eating is very interesting and very essential to the work that I do, because when you put food in your mouth, if you're not hungry and you're putting food in your mouth, that's worth looking at. And if you are hungry and you're putting food in your mouth, what kind of food are you putting in your mouth? Those are all interesting things to ask yourself once you become mindful of what the heck it is you're doing with your body. So I usually work with women who are in menopause who are wanting to lose weight. You've been struggling your whole life. Menopause is making it harder than ever. So if you're listening and you sound like this, then I'm talking to you. But I want to tell you that my approach to all of this is really very, very different. And if you've been listening to my podcast for a long time, you already know that, and you must like it or you wouldn't be listening. Or maybe this is the first time you're listening and you're really wanting an answer into this menopause weight loss thing. And I had the same problem, maybe 15 years ago, where I was sick of following a diet and the diets that I used weren't working anymore. And I just didn't want to be so obsessed with eating anymore and my weight. And did I look too fat, or did I look this, or did I look that? Because now that I'm in my 70s, those thoughts still come up, and it's not so much about weight. Now it's more about the aging thing, even though I know many of you 50-year-olds have the same thoughts, which is really interesting, is that if you don't take care of some of these thoughts in your 50s, they're going to come back anyway in your 70s, and how you manage them in your 50s will make a big difference into what happens in your 70s. But what I'm doing is I'm offering a class where you can come and learn how to connect into your body. And I don't think eating is the only thing to be able to make over in menopause. I think eating is one of the things, because I think it is one of your body connections. So a body connection, meaning that your body gives you messages. It gives you messages to the mind, and the mind replies. And that mind-body connection is the body says, feed me, and the mind does what it says. Or the mind has a mind of its own and says, well, you're on a diet, so you can't eat. You're going to go hungry. There's something wrong with you. You should go hungry. Whatever it is that the mind conjures up. But when we were born, and the way that we were wired is our body says, eat, and the mind says, feed her. Period. Because that's the only reason the body does it, is because it needs fuel. It needs nutrition. We were wired that way. I have up on my board a quote that I really like that says, I'm doing a makeover that brings you back to what your body already knows, and so do you. And so this class that I'm doing is a menopause mindful eating makeover. And it's a makeover to help you come back to what your body already knows. So this is the thing. Your body already knows when to eat and when to stop. We'll just start with that. Those of you who've been listening to me for a while know that's the premise of all the things that I do. But this class isn't going to be just on learning how to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. even though it's very, very important, because if you don't have that mind body connection, probably the side effect of not having that mind body connection would be weight gain. In other words, if you're eating when you're not hungry, or you've been eating when you're not hungry for most of your life, it's a rude awakening when menopause hits. Because usually, if we're eating when we're not hungry, so we're not physically hungry, but we're eating, that means that we're trying to fill a different hole. It's not a hunger, it's not a physical hunger hole, it's an emotional hunger hole. And if you've been doing this your whole life, you are going to have, if you haven't already noticed, more emotional hunger holes as you go into menopause due to hormone imbalance, due to all the changes that go on in your body, due to the transition, which can lead to a transformation. And I do believe of all the transitions that we go through in our lives, menopause will give you your biggest transformation. And it gives you the second half of your life, helping you do what you've always wanted to do. Because sometimes what we do, and maybe you've been doing everything you've wanted to do. For the first half of my life, I loved raising my son. I loved running a business. I loved starting a business. I loved going to school. But it was a lot of do, and a lot of laws, rules, and regulations that I had on myself. And some of those things were made by me, and some of those things were made by other people. Then I hit my 50s, and I hit menopause, and I started wondering about some of this, because some of it didn't feel good, and some of it did. And that's probably where you're at now, too, is you're in your 50s. Maybe some of where you're at you love and feels good, and some of it you question. And I think that is the purpose of this transition that leads to this transformation, is that you take your first 50 years and create a lot of wisdom, making a lot of mistakes. What do I want? What don't I want? And then I think the next half is about using that wisdom to get closer to the things that you really, really want. I will tell you this. If you're eating when you're not hungry, you cannot get close to the wisdom, because eating gets in the way, if that makes sense. In other words, emotional holes or emotions are meant to be felt. If you're not feeling them and you're filling them, then you will never know where these emotions could take you. And just to kind of give you an example, in my 50s, I used to like to go out and eat, and I used to like to go out and drink alcohol. And I'm not saying I still do. But the only thing is that I did it more out of a way of escaping. And so I overdid all of that. I really felt eating and drinking was the reward for the hard work that I was doing. I really wasn't using it as a way of being mindful about anything. And what I want to teach you, if you're like that, is that you can use that and actually learn how to eat mindfully and even drink alcohol mindfully, which is part of the process that I teach. And in this free class that I'm offering in May, the first week of May, and you can get all that information by going to drdebbutler.com/makeover, because what I'm going to be offering is a mindful makeover. Now, one of the makeovers is on what you eat. But it's also all about having a makeover on being able to be connected to your mind and to your body, a mind-body connection. So it's not just, are you eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full, but it's also, what do you do when you're tired? And how tired do you have to get before you let yourself lie down? Or the opposite of that is you're lying down all the time because you don't want to do whatever it is you need to do. So you're actually not really tired, but it's an emotion. And instead of feeling the emotion, you're just wanting to go to sleep on the emotion. Either way, they are meant to be handled. They are meant you to be mindful about that. And most of what I see are women who push. I call you pushers, menopause pushers. And basically what that looks like, or the way it looked like for me and still does, is I've just had a big long day and I'm driving home and I see Trader Joe's and it occurs to me that I need a few extra things. Now, I will tell you, my body is saying, lay me down, please. I'm tired. And you could see, or I can tell you what my mind has to say sometimes. And it's this: oh, it'll just take a minute. I'm just going to run in and get a few things. That is not being connected to my body. That is pushing through my body. If you're like that, you could be like that a lot, you could be like that a little, but it's not a mind-body connection. And what I'm offering in this class is a mindful makeover of that kind of behavior by first recognizing that you do it and what it's like and can you manage it. So eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full is one basic connection. If you don't have that connection, there's a good chance that you have too much weight on your body. If you do not have the connection of laying your body down when it's tired, there's a good chance that you might have weight on your body, because what many people do is when they're exhausted and tired and don't think they should lay down and go to sleep, guess what they do instead? They eat. It's another emotional hole. I call it a tired hole. Instead of resting, you're filling it with food. What would happen if you rested? Now, your mind has a lot to say about resting and going to sleep. It's too early. I have too much to do. I just have to do this one thing. The mind-body disconnection is something to really look at, and that's what this class is all about. What do you do when you're in pain? You know, as a chiropractor, I used to be a chiropractor for many, many years. And one of the basic programs that I love to offer my patients was maintenance care. And what maintenance care was coming into my office when you didn't hurt. Such a concept. And many people could not relate to that. And why would I do that? I feel fine. But actually, the idea of maintenance care and chiropractic care is you take care of the problem before it becomes a problem. And that's kind of how pain is. I wanted people to come see me as a chiropractor when they had a level 2 of pain instead of a 10, right? 10 pain is very difficult to take care of as a chiropractor, and it's very difficult as a patient when you have a 10 because it takes so much longer to heal. When you start taking care of your body at lower numbers, it's easier to take care of, and you end up able to be upright and get more done when you listen to your body, even though your mind says, push it. You can push it. You can do it. That makes it harder, and it makes it harder to age in a way that feels good and that's healthy. Pro-aging is all about being able to be connected to your body and take care of it when it whispers to you, not when it yells to you. I've talked many, many times on my podcast about becoming a body whisperer. That is what this is all about. The whispers of hunger, the whispers of fullness, the whispers of tiredness, the whispers of pain. Those type of levels are so much easier to take care of, but you have to manage your mind that's going to tell you to push it. And that is what the class that I'm offering is all about, is this mindful makeover. I call it a mindful makeover of eating, but really it's a mindful makeover of your mind-body connection. Not just about eating, but eating is one of those basic connections that if you don't have it, all the other ones are even harder. And it's the biggest complaint from most people, only because of weight gain. So more people are concerned about what they're putting in their mouth only because the scale is telling them there's a problem. If the scale wasn't saying anything, it wouldn't be a problem. People would keep eating the way they're eating. So menopause is a wake-up call to get connected. And here's the thing. A makeover that brings you back to what your body already knows, and so do you. I want to keep repeating that because that's what this is. It's a makeover not to make you into somebody new. It's a makeover into making you into who you already are with a mind-body connection, not a mind-body disconnection. So that's what I want to invite you to in this mindful makeover. Menopause Mindful Makeover. And it's all about eating, and it's all about connecting into your body. And the side effect of all of this is weight loss. But it's not centered on weight loss. It's centered on connection, mind-body connection. Weight loss is the side effect. The side effect of not being connected, to pushing, to not eat, to try to push yourself and not eat, or to push yourself and eat too much, the side effect of that is weight gain. So if you're gaining weight, have a look at the mind-body connection. If you want to lose weight, have a look at the mind-body connection. And that's what I'm offering you. And you can meet me in my class. It starts on May 5th. You can get all the details by going to drdebbutler.com/makeover. Make over who you already are, not somebody new. And of course, I would never end this podcast without saying to you, no matter where you go or who you're with or what you're doing, please, please, please be very, very kind to yourself. And I will see you next week. Bye-bye.